Mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2. Welcome in. DTP, hello. David, Chanel, Rick, Josh, Nabil, what up? Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for next week too. For this week, rather. We have a lot of good setups. We're gonna do something a little bit different. Well, we did this last time that we went live. But what I want to do is take charting requests first, and then I'm going to get into the stock picks that I have for tomorrow. So if you have anything that you want me to review, type it up in the chat box right there, and just include a sentence or two on the stock, maybe some reasoning why it deserves attention, and I'll talk about it and break it down. But yeah, let's do some charting requests first. Then I'll review my live trading plan, or my trading plan live next. By the way, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, you're not going to have access to type into the chat box. So just subscribe, wait a minute, and then you should have access to type. We'll just give it a few more moments here and let some people join in. Man, it's been a tough couple of weeks. I will admit that. There has been opportunity in the market, but as far as like technical analysis goes, I mean, it's been stagnant. A lot of stocks were really just kind of following, SPY and /ES, and it was a matter of where's the market going to go from here. There weren't too many setups that had independent movement from the overall market, so it was a lot of kind of just creating a plan. If the stock moved that way, then we were able to take a trade. If not, then no trade. It's really been a scalper's market, in all honesty. Not a whole lot of follow through on certain breakout moves. All right, we're getting some requests coming in. By the way, if you're just joining into the stream, welcome in. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, so everything that I talk about tonight is just my opinion. Does not serve as financial advice. Just taking some charting requests first, and then I will be breaking down my personal trading plan for tomorrow. We'll start with, so Van mentioned two stocks, one of them being Disney, okay, and the other one being PFE, Pfizer. Both stocks have earnings this week. I'm not a big fan of trading stocks the week that they have earnings leading up to the earnings report. In rare cases, I will take trades on them. In rare cases, I will put them on the watch list. I love the setup on Pfizer from a technical standpoint. This is a very strong downtrend, and a break of 54 could definitely send this higher. But, there's also a chance that leading up into earnings, this thing just moves sideways and doesn't do anything. So I'd much rather prefer on stocks like Disney or Pfizer that have earnings this week. I'd much rather just wait until after the earnings report and then trade them after, as opposed to trying to trade them prior. Brad mentioned Apple. Okay, so let's talk about Apple here. You said Apple had like a bull flag or pennant, and you're looking at a long over 173. It's tough. I don't know that I totally agree with you here, but what I am looking at is this almost looks like an inverted head and shoulders, where you have your left shoulder here, the head, and then the right shoulder there, and the expected move from here could be a move up. The reason why I say that this is tough is because where Apple goes from here probably will be also where the overall market goes from here. If we look at this movement on Apple, it's a drop, consolidation, run up, pullback, right? So then look at SPY. Same thing. It's a drop, consolidation, run up, pullback. So as far as independent analysis goes on Apple, I'm not a super big fan of it. I think if the market pushes back up, then there certainly can be a trade on Apple. This being a bull flag, it's questionable. It's questionable. I totally see what you're talking about. Let me flip this to the 5-minute time frame. Yeah, and even you placed a trigger at 173. I mean, personally, I would just wait for a break of 176. I want to be totally convinced that the market and Apple are ready to move up and put in higher highs. So me personally, I wouldn't touch Apple until a break of 176 there. Prax mentioned long time no see, right? Yeah, so that's kind of what I was just talking about. The past couple of weeks for technical analysis it's been tough because so many stocks are just following the overall market, it's been a pullback and consolidation. Now we're finally starting to see some independent setups, and I'm just not going to go live on YouTube when it's just a matter of hey, there's a lack of technical setups. We've just got to watch the overall market. Who's responding? Mentioned PayPal. Okay, so yeah, this is really interesting. Pre-pandemic levels bounce area. Right, so PayPal has been getting smoked on the daily. A drop from 310 all the way down to 120. You've got a double gap down here on two separate earnings reports. And PayPal hasn't made too much of a recovery move at all. If we're looking at this, though, on the daily chart time frame, you kind of see this drop following earnings and then a hammer candle put in. Am I totally convinced that PayPal is going to reverse from here and start the move back up to fill this gap? Not really. I'm not super interested in taking a trade on PayPal until it breaks over $140 and starts to fill this gap and recover to the top side. Now, is this a good point to add into PayPal for a long-term investing position? Possibly. I see what you're talking about on the weekly chart time frame. If you just back this up, we're no longer on the daily. Look at this consolidation underneath 120. Once it tried to break, failed, tested again, failed, and on the third time it broke. And what we know to be true about old resistance is that it can become new support. So yes, this is a fairly important area and level for PayPal to hold for an investing standpoint, from an investing standpoint. But from a day trading perspective, I'm not going to touch this until it gets back over 140. I know you might think I'm crazy because you're like, whoa, wait a minute, from where it's at up to 140, you're missing out on a 10% profit margin possibly. Yes, I am, and I would gladly miss that. But I want to be totally convinced that PayPal is going to bounce off of these levels, and that the buyers are ready to step in here. We saw that a little bit, but I want to be totally convinced. So a break over 140 and some higher highs put in to start to fill that gap would be a little more convincing for me. Josh mentioned QCOM. Let's talk about this one. So I'm seeing a lot of QCOM, a lot of similarities between QCOM and, again, just the overall market. So I'm afraid that we're going to run into this quite a bit, but it's that same pattern, right? That drop, consolidation, run up, pullback. We see that all over the place. QCOM has been one that's previously been on our radar multiple times. We were looking for, I think, the break of 190 or 192.5, somewhere in this area, because it's been unable to break this level for quite some time. So yeah, if we get a break, if QCOM does get a break of 190, and we do see the market start to push back up and start to see higher highs, absolutely. I love QCOM as a breakover. What did you give us a level here? You said nice steady fade waiting for a breakout of this wedge. Yeah, so it's just a matter of staying patient. I like the setup here on QCOM. One of the things that is really kind of significant about this major level of resistance is that it's occurring over the period of like 3 months. So 1 month, 2 month, 2.5 to 3 months, arguably. So the longer that a stock consolidates under a certain level for, when it does finally break, if it does finally break, the larger that breakout move can be. Sorry, not PayPal, QCOM over the 190 mark looks good for a run towards 200, but we want to see that daily candle close over 190. All right, so I want to see a daily candle close over 190. So far, we've only gotten wicks above, no daily candles to close over. So I'm going to set an alert right there, just so I know that it's starting to move up. I might set another one at 192.5. Thanks, Josh, for that mention. I like this setup. It needs a little bit more time, but over 190, it does. It looks ripe. All right, somebody mentioned ENPH here. Okay, this is another one that has earnings upcoming. So I see what you're talking about here. It's the consolidation definitely looks like it's breaking. You know, this downtrend, if I were to just extend this line actually all the way up, like that's a fairly significant break that it had. Nice move up, pulled back, held the old level of resistance there as new support here, and it started to push back up. From a technical standpoint, this looks great. The only thing that does bother me about ENPH would be the fact that earnings is upcoming this week. So I would wait. I mean, personally, I would just wait until after the earnings report and see which direction it's really going to go and then play it from there. Oh, Google. Okay. Yeah, so big move up into these most recent highs and has pulled back, almost totally filling that gap. So we're getting on Google this beautiful downtrend trend line. The moment that this starts to put in higher highs, I'd keep an eye on it. So from the peak of the earnings pop, around 30.60, it's just made lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. The moment that this downward trend line breaks and you start to see a move back up, making higher highs, I'd start to pay attention to Google. That's It kind of reminds me of AMD in a way. We had that post earnings pop, right? 5-minute time frame, the post earnings pop, and then hasn't done much since then. AMD is not as downtrending as Google is. It's actually, you have a pretty clear level of resistance around 125, maybe even just to play it safe at 126. But yeah, these post earning pop plays, the fact that they fade out and need some time to digest the news and consolidate a little bit makes sense, but keep an eye on these for the next leg up. So, you know, without a doubt, like, we should also be watching AMD for higher highs being put in as well. But I do like that. I do like that setup on Google. So I will go ahead and be setting some alerts overhead. I'll set my first one at 29.40. And then I'll set another one up here at this high around 29.80. What I'm doing, by the way, I'm flipping between the daily chart time frame and the 5-minute time frame, and just kind of doing what's called cross time frame analysis. So I'm using the daily chart to identify what the larger trend is, and then I'm switching over to the 5-minute time frame to really kind of specify certain points and price points and resistance levels that are recently relevant to the stock. Mike said 39 watching and 7 likes. Yeah, well, we're up to 49 watching and 14 likes now. So, but I appreciate you shouting that out. Yeah, press the like button for me. That helps me out. CVX. I don't know that I've charted this one anytime recently. So I'm going to back this up to the max available time frame. You mentioned, what did you say about CVX? CVX seems to be bumping up against all-time highs. Yes, there's a lot of kind of news out right now with oil. I know that like XOM was one of those stocks that was also being pumped up. So there's resistance definitely placed at 135. CVX is above 135 at the current moment. It met resistance at 137. Looks strong, but that pullback right there would be a little worrisome. I really like this setup though. I'm not a fan of the lower-ish volume, but that was a really nice move. This is somewhat of clean price action. Let me delete this line at 135. This to me also seems like it could be the start, or maybe towards the end of a pattern known as an ascending triangle. This is a really good setup, actually. Who called this out? Jamie? This is a really good find. This is awesome. Yeah, great. And this is exactly why I take charting requests, because I hadn't seen this previously. This is one of those setups that I talk about. Like some of you send me messages, right? And I ask you, I've replied before to some of you, what is your A+ setup? You know, what's your setup that you go to, that you know that on most cases you succeed at, that you're most profitable on? And what strikes me as shocking is that most people, when I send that question, they don't know the answer to it, which is not their fault, because if you don't journal your trades, then how would you know the answer to that? But this is one of those setups that I would, like, 10 times out of 10, I would take this setup. This is really an A+ setup, in my opinion. You have fundamental backing, all right? We've got fundamental backing with the stock. It's running up into all-time highs. You have very clean price action. You've got a pattern forming at the all-time highs. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that it sold off into the after-hours session. So if it opens up down near like 134 or 133, it's kind of out of play, for at least for tomorrow's sake. But if this does get over 137, I'm all about it. Jamie, that was a really good find. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Probably one of the best charting requests right here that I've seen called out in any of these live streams. Yeah, good deal. Davina, you mentioned AMD. Yeah, so I kind of talked about that one already. I'll discuss it again though. AMD, since we're talking about it, I'll tell you right now, AMD does make my watch list for tomorrow. It's a post-earnings play that ran up and then has since, it faded out, which kind of makes sense, but has since done not a whole lot. Pretty much nothing, actually. It hasn't really put in any new lows, and it certainly hasn't put in any highs. This right here is a range. That is a range forming. So you've got very clear static support at 119, very clear static resistance around 125, 126 area, and a break of that resistance point, if we're looking at the daily chart time frame, could send this very easily back up to the 50 EMA, so around 129 or 130. Profit margin wise, that's over a 2% move. We're looking at 3.3% for profit margin. Granted, we don't know that it's going to make that entire move, but I like AMD. I like the volume, massive volume. I love the volume in AMD. I like the price action. I love the way that AMD trades. It's very clean on most days. The contracts are great for options trading. You don't have too wide of a spread typically. High open interest. A lot of things are really A1 for trading on from an options trading perspective on AMD. So yes, AMD will be making the watch list. Right now is a long idea over 125. We'll have to see where this opens up at and where the market opens up at, and determine then if we have to adjust that trigger level or not. But yeah, 125 is the level to watch as of now. All right, let's see. Well, I'm getting behind here. MU, somebody mentioned MU. MU over 8250. I disagree. I'm going to disagree with that. This looks like an inverted head and shoulders to me, though. So there's your left shoulder, there's your head, there's your right shoulder. That's forming all at a known point of support, being the 200 EMA on the daily. But it's having a lot of trouble getting over 85, which is why my trend line is drawn there. So I would wait for a break of 85 because look, if you're trying to take MU over 82.50, who mentioned this? John. If you're trying to take MU over 82.50, you know, it does have larger resistance at 85, but it also has some minor resistance points in this area. I see definitely some resistance there, 82.75. I see some resistance in this area. I see some resistance here, you know, and so going long over 82.50, we don't know. Is it going to stop here? Is it going to stop there? If it does, in both cases, that's less than 2%. Or does it run all the way to 85? In the event that it does push all the way to 85, it'd be a great trade. But why even take the chance of trading it down here when you can just wait for the larger move, which would be a breakout confirmation of this inverted head and shoulders pattern over a known point of resistance being that 50 EMA. Let me draw a line there, being that 50 EMA, and it's a static level of resistance as well at 85. So I would not touch, personally would not touch MU until it breaks 85. I hope that makes sense to you. So I'm not nixing the trade. I think it's a good setup. It just needs more time. You know, forcing something down here to limit yourself on, potentially limit yourself on profit margin there, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I would just wait for a break of 85. I'm gonna start taking some requests from the bottom of the list. So if I just skip yours, just retype it. As you see me wrapping up on something, just copy and paste and resend your request. So Jay mentioned snow. You said you're waiting for a trend line break on the daily, and it can run to 296. Let's see here. So the trend line that I'm assuming you're talking about would look something like that. This is where the issue kind of falls, because this is a trend line, and if you're looking for the trend line break, I don't think you would get that until it breaks 296. And then even if it breaks 296, you've got the 300 whole number overhead, and then you've got the 50 EMA and the 200 EMA overhead. So that's tough. That's a tough call, because I could also draw this trend line and make it look like that, which I'm assuming that's kind of what you're going for. But this is how subjective trend lines can be. You know, we can draw a trend line and make it look like it hasn't broken yet, and then we can draw a trend line and make it look like it's about to break. What'd you say here? Let me see what your point was. So you're just looking for a trend line break in the run to 296. It would have to put in. I don't totally disagree with you if that's how you want to trade this. I'll tell you my way that I would trade this, and then I'll go into discussing your way. So I would wait for a break of 300. That's just me. I would just wait until it gets probably over that 200 EMA. Maybe even, if you want to get super specific, maybe a break of like 302. I want to see it back over that 200 EMA before I start taking it long, because then I would know for sure that I not only have a break of this trend line, but I also have a break of this trend line as well, right? So there's no question that it's moving up at 300 or 301 or 302. That's the way that I would trade this one. But to go off of what if you're just trying to get in and get that run to 295, 296, I would wait for a break of 288. Or this high over here, this peak over here. So yeah, 287, 288, somewhere in that area. If you back this back up to the daily chart time frame, that's going to be your most recent high following this kind of rally off of the bottom here. And you could even go a step further and be like, yeah, well, this is the neckline of a double bottom, and then that would be the expected move. Profit margin wise, from 288 up to, what'd you say, 295, 296. Yeah, you've got enough profit margin there to take a trade on that. So that would work out fine. I just think that for tomorrow there are probably better setups than this one. And me personally, I would wait for a break of 300. But I covered it. I covered the analysis here both ways. So, take it however you want. Your trade would work fine. Just be careful with that limited profit margin area. Yeah, I mean, because you might even see some resistance at 290 first. Just given this bounce and then all of this, you see this bounce right here? Like regardless of where the wicks are at, look at where the bodies of the candles are opening and closing. So all of the candles here are closing above 290, and then all of these candles here are closing below 290. So a break of like 288, you might see resistance at 290, and that's again, you might be playing with fire, trying to limit yourself, or potentially limiting yourself on profit margin there. All right, Jasmine mentioned Tesla. Jasmine mentioned Tesla. So you said it's ranging above the 200 EMA with a support of the previous high on the daily. Yeah, so I like this setup. I like this setup. In fact, since we're talking about it, Tesla definitely makes my watch list going into tomorrow as well. You know, it had the earnings drop, but that earnings drop was bought up. You know, the investors see this as an opportunity. Buyers stepped in, right? Investors saw that as a buying opportunity to buy this back up. And I know it's maybe a little bit of a stretch here, but that kind of looks like a bull flag pattern to me. It's not perfect, but if we're just counting this recovery move from the earnings drop, this recovery move back up over that 200 EMA, that does look like a bull flag pattern to me. So what was your level here, Jazz? Oh, you didn't give us one. Okay, here's what I would do, and here's what I kind of intend to do. 940, definite level of resistance. Your support is going to be around the 200 EMA, so let's just go with 860. That's going to be a range, larger range right there. A break of that range should dictate direction on Tesla from where it's currently at. So yes, I like it over 940, maybe even over 950 if it opens up higher. Either one of those levels would work for a continuation run. We'll see. We'll see what it does, because yeah, if Tesla gets that momentum behind it, it's one of those names that, who knows, it could really keep going topside. You know, might see 1100 or 1200 if everything kind of holds up and this market doesn't decide to come right back down. All right, Jeremy mentioned ROKU for a break of 160 to 170. Okay, I see what you're kind of going off of there. 160 is very close to where it's currently at. Some of you that know me might say that you might know what I'm about to say. For a stock to be breaking its downtrend, one of the first things that you're going to see, so ROKU has that, right? It is seemingly breaking the downtrend right here, the most recent downtrend. One of the first things that you're going to see when you have a trend change is a break of the downtrend. The second thing that you're most likely going to see is the stock not putting in lower lows and instead starting to move sideways, which is exactly what ROKU is doing here as well. So range trading or consolidation, that's one of the first or second signs to a trend change that you'll see is consolidation. The third thing that you want to have for confirmation that it is truly breaking the downtrend is what? Let's see if you get it. Let's see if somebody gets it in the chat. I'll give you a second. You should know this. For as many times as I've seen some of your names in here, you should know what I'm about to say. Yeah, you got it, man. Jeremy got it himself. You want to see that higher high. So break of 170 is what I would wait on it, and my alert's actually set right there for that. Not to say that you can't take a trade over 160 or 162 for the run to 170. If that's how you want to trade it, sure. But I would wait. I want that, we want that confirmation. That extra confirmation is always, always nice. All right, we've got, I'm gonna take requests for the next 5 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna get into my stocks that I have for the watch list for tomorrow. And then we'll call the end of the stream after that. Mahi, I hope I pronounced Mahi, Nvidia. All right, let's see what you said here. Forming a bull pennant, maybe a run to 271. Man, it's tough, right? This is that same pattern. So the drop, consolidation, run up, pull back. Look at SPY. Drop, consolidation, run up, pull back. Look at Apple, right? Drop, consolidation, run up, pull back. It's just going to be very dependent on where the overall market goes. I mean, doing that technical analysis on stocks that are moving similarly, like it's okay to include one of these on your watch list, but I wouldn't go overboard with all the same stocks that are all showing the same setup, because if they're showing similar setups, I know they move independently, but if they're showing similar setups, chances are going into tomorrow, they're probably going to move the same way. So if SPY tanks, these names that are doing the same thing as SPY are probably going to tank. If SPY takes off, these names that are doing the same thing as SPY are probably all going to take off. It's just a market that we're trading in right now. So is it a bull pennant? No. Is it a bull flag? No. Is it putting in a higher high? Yes, but we don't have the second higher high confirmation. This could be a higher low. We definitely had the consolidation, so we had the break of the downtrend, consolidation, run up. Now we want to see that run up continue, which would mean a higher low and a higher high being put in. And if that's the case, you might be better off just watching SPY. All right, Ace. Ace mentioned SQ reversal over 110. It held the $100 whole number 3 times, forming a double bottom possibly, looking for this to go to 130. Yeah, the SQ has been smoked too. This is another name on the daily chart that just, from 289 all the way down to 100. That's a tough drop right there. So what are we doing now? Ace mentioned that the $100 hold number was validated as a support. You said 3 times. I think I see 4 to 5. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, arguably, SQ has held 100 as a support. Yeah, I see. So let me see what you mentioned here. SQ reversal over 110. I would agree with that. SQ is a name that definitely has the power and potential to make big moves. Really in both directions. But look at some of these days back here. Well, that's a cheat day. That was like earnings reports. But yeah, $10 moves for this stock on a pretty regular basis is not uncommon. So your profit target being 130, I don't think that's out of question. Taking the reversal move over 110, I also don't think that's something that's absurd either. This is even if you were to just buy the common shares of SQ, right? Even if you were just to buy the common shares of SQ and you were looking to hold and swing trade this, you would have from 110 to 130, you would have a $20 profit margin with a stop loss placed obviously at the support on the daily, which is 100. So you'd basically be risking $10 to make 20. That's that 2-to-1 ratio coming into effect. And that's really what we aim for, at least in my Discord server. That's what we aim for when we trade. So I like the setup on SQ. I would be careful because it definitely is in a downtrend. It's getting smoked and every single pop has been sold. Pop, sell, pop, sell, pop, sell, right? All the way down. But now we're starting to see that support being held, and maybe it can truly confirm the reversal from here and start that run back up. What I also like is that earnings is still a little ways away, a couple of weeks away. Oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes you might see stocks start to run in anticipation of the earnings report, especially if they're trading at a favorable level. This is a solid dip entry. Now, one thing that you also should consider about SQ is that it had negative news, well, yeah, kind of negative news come out on it, right? Something that was mentioned by Apple was that they no longer needed, or they may no longer need exterior card transaction, card transaction things. We'll just go with that. So is that going to eliminate Square's product? Right, from the biggest, one of the biggest, if not, it might be the biggest phone company. If that's the case, that's bad. That's bad news for SQ. But as far as risk to reward goes, I like it. I like the setup. I like the move over 110. Maybe 120 is a better first initial profit target, but if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, a move to 130 totally not out of the question. All right, I'm going to take some time here to analyze and share the charts that I have for tomorrow for my watch list. Some of them we've already talked about. Number one, I'll just do the quick review of the ones we have discussed. Number one is AMD. So we're looking for this to make a move following the earnings report pop. At this point, it does look like it's going to break out to the top side because it's trading closer to the resistance rather than the support. But I'm not going to be biased on this, and I would trade this either way. You know, if it breaks 119, I'd look to short it. Otherwise, if it breaks 125, we'll be looking to take this one long. So AMD, without a doubt, makes the watch list for tomorrow. In the event that it breaks 125, my profit target's going to be around 129. That's going to be the 50 EMA on the daily chart time frame. Number two is Tesla. So what I'm looking for on Tesla is a break of the $940 level, right? So that's resistance, 940. Break of 940, maybe 945, depending on where it opens. Looking for a break of that resistance though. Looking for the higher highs most recent higher highs to be put in following the buy up off of the 200 EMA and the earnings report. The next one is Hood, HOOD. So if you have been following me for some time, I've been talking about Hood, and I think somewhere in this time frame or over here, I was saying, you know, call me crazy, but this has room to 16, and I do still feel that Hood has room to 16. So looking at the daily chart time frame, this is kind of what I'm deriving that from. Every dollar mark at this point is a likely level of resistance. Resistance, definite support and resistance, support and resistance, support and resistance, all the way up to $20, right? So we'll just take it $1 at a time. It had trouble breaking $15 here for a few days, and finally last week got the close over 15. So we're looking for most recent higher highs to be put in, so maybe a break of 15.2 or 15.3 for the run up to 16. And I think that if this doesn't gap up tomorrow, this is really going to be a solid trade for us. So Hood, HOOD, without a doubt, makes our watch list for tomorrow. By the way, I just looked at my screen. Sorry it's dark. The sun went down. I just didn't turn a light on. So we talked about, oh yeah, okay, so Boeing. This one is another one that is really kind of range trading and doesn't have true direction just yet. I love these setups. I absolutely love these setups because when it gives you a tight range that the stock is moving in, usually when it breaks, you get a larger move. So resistance, without a doubt, very clearly and cleanly placed at 209. Support area, without a doubt, let's just go wide and say 203. You could argue 204, but these dip downs are telling me that 203 is the support point. So we've got a range on Boeing between 203 and 209. Wait for a break of the range. You know, don't have any bias on this. If it breaks 209, we just go long, right? We go long on this. And look what else is significant about the break of 209 here on the daily. We'd also be breaking that 50 EMA as well. So a break of 209, depending on where it opens, maybe a break of 210. I'm looking for the run towards 214, 215, where this 200 EMA is at. All right, so Boeing, without a doubt, also makes our watch list going into tomorrow. And the main not the main one. The last one that will be making my main chart watch list is Snapchat. So Snapchat had that the profitable quarter, right? Gapped up on earnings. This is a pretty large gap, and still has room to go towards this 50 EMA. I'm going to say that at this point, I would take it long over 40. If it pushes up any higher by the open, I would look to take it long at 41, with a price target of 42 plus in mind. All right, so I'm just looking for, this is very simple, just looking for a continuation play from the most recent earnings pop for higher highs to be put in. And this will keep, if it keeps putting in higher highs, like all week long, it will continue to make my watch list all week long. All right. NEO is the next one that will be making my list. So NEO has had a bull flag pattern shaping up, much like Tesla, and this offers breakout potential, in my opinion. Especially if we see something like Tesla take off. You know, the EV sector tends to follow the leader, and NEO could be one of those ones that goes with it. So do I feel the need to trade both NEO and Tesla? No, but why mention both? Because it's a stock that offers a different type of opportunity, especially for those that have the smaller account balances. NEO is affordable for most people, if not everybody. Tesla, not so much, right? So for NEO, we're looking for these, at this point, it's been putting in lower highs. We're looking for the higher highs to be put in. So at break of 24, 24.5 or 24.6 is what I'm looking for on NEO going into tomorrow. PTON on the daily chart time frame does not have a technical setup that I really like, but flipping to the 5-minute time frame, the stock ran up after hours last week. So what was the news? I believe it was Amazon acquisition news, and it may not be true news. It might just be a rumor, but I want to see where PTON opens up. At the beginning of the stream, I said that I'm not a fan of trading stocks that have earnings that same week, right? So we talked about like Disney, we talked about PFE, I believe ENPH was another one. I'm not a fan of it, but in rare cases, especially a case like this, I don't mind putting it on the watch list because there is some other catalyst other than earnings that's causing the stock to move. So we'll see. I don't want to give any specific levels on PTON right now because this could be back down to 25 by the time that the market opens. But if it's breaking 33 or 34 or continuing the run up, PTON can get some energy behind it and start to make a larger move. I think 40 would be my price target one. 40 would be my price target one from where it's currently at. I've got one more that I want to share with you all. That's going to be DWAC. So if you're an options trader, options day trader, be careful if you're trying to trade this because for one, it's already volatile, and two, the spreads on the option chain, they're tradable, but it's like pushing the boundary of how spready that, like our max spread that we want to go. So for DWAC this week, I'm just going to play it safe and keep an eye on it, but I want to see if this can break over 90. I'm thinking that tomorrow, like this is really kind of getting compressed up to 86. I might add this on the watch list as a long idea over 86 for the run to 90, but without a doubt, even if I don't do that, if it runs to 90 and closes at or near that level tomorrow afternoon, it will be making my watch list for the run to 100. For a Tuesday play. Okay, so we want to see where it goes from here. I think it should hold up over 80. Ideally, I'd like to see it close near 90, and then we'll run this up on Tuesday, see if we can get it into the triple digits again. The last one, this one's kind of iffy for me, is Amazon, I know I said DWAC would be my last one, but this is also, Amazon's also a post-earnings play. So I just want to quickly mention this. This is definitely, it's just going to be a back burner stock for me until it starts to do something, which is either put in higher highs over 3,300 or start to break down below the support at 3,000. So 3K and 33K are two levels to just kind of set alerts at. This might be one that moves sideways and range trades for a few days, much like we see AMD doing at the current moment. And Google as well, if you want to throw Google into the mix too. It might be one that kind of fades or moves sideways for a few days before making its next move. But keep alerts set at those two levels just in case it decides to go off. All right. So a quick review then. The watch list will be Snapchat, Hood, Tesla, NIO, DWAC, AMD, and Boeing. Am I missing one? PTON. We're going to check on the opening price of PTON. That's it. That's it. Thank you all for the awesome charting requests. If you missed the live stream, if you missed the beginning portion of the live stream, it is available to you as soon as I end this stream. So you can go back and rewatch it, fast forward through it if you need to. If I didn't get to your charting request, I do apologize. You know, we have limited time, but you can always message me on Instagram at spartan.trades. That is my only Instagram at this time that I'm active on. Or you can message me on Discord or shoot me a message on Twitter as well. Okay? Thank you for your time. Good luck this week. Trade safe, trade smart, and let's go make some money.